Hey guys, what's up? It is your boy Johnny Blue, and your girl Josie, and welcome to episode two. It's been a bit. Um, we had some stuff going on this past month, if I'm being honest. So we didn't really have the right time to sit and record physically, like in person. Josie started school. We had some other stuff come up. So it's been a little bit difficult, but we are here now. We are doing audio for the time being because, you know, like we mentioned in the first episode, Josie's now in school, so it's gonna be kind of difficult now to really have a set time to sit in front of a camera and record where she gets her hails done, nail done, everything did, all that, and then me just put on a shirt that isn't covered in stains of any sort. So we're gonna do audio just for the time being. It's not supposed to be permanent. If it does well and we're more comfortable with audio, that's probably what we're gonna stick with. Um, but it's not necessarily planned right now. So this is what we have for today for this episode. And I hope you guys enjoy. We have something we're going to talk about. It's not really old news, but it's also not recent. Do you want to introduce the topic to the people, Josie, since I've been talking?
Today we're going to talk about fights.
Specifically,
Specifically, the Alabama Brawl.
yeah, Alabama beatdown, really.
Yeah.
So if you don't know about the Alabama Brawl, first off, where have you been? I don't think anyone has been able to not hear about this thing. If I'm being honest, it was a fiasco. um, do you want to explain like quickly what happened? Because I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone's seen it, but just kind of like to sum up everything that happened, or I can do it. It's up to you.
Well, I know what happened from the video, but apparently there's more facts behind it. Like they were white supremacists, things like that.
Oh, I didn't know all that. So yeah, if well, so let's just start out with just what happened in the fight itself, like how it started, the information that's like on the forefront, not like deeper. Because I didn't know that there was a deeper story to it, which we can definitely get into.
Okay. Well, at the beginning of the video, I think it's a security guard. There's a black security guard, and he's getting into an altercation with a white man. The white man starts fighting him, and that's when he starts getting ganged up on by a few white men. Then a black man jumps into the water, swims over there to defend him, and it basically turns into this whole almost like a race war. All the black people
Yeah, I mean it was
jump in and defend
insane.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was crazy because it was just like, so first off, like, yeah, it started out with a black security guard, who was telling. So the reason the altercation started was like, so the white people were like super, like, what's the word? Stuck up, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But like, they weren't trying to like hear what he was saying. So he was a security guard on a dock, and at that dock, like certain ferry boats can park there. You're not supposed to park like personal boats. So this white family parks their boats there, or their boat there, and he's telling them like, you guys gotta move. And the video starts at the point where he like has already told them that they have to move, and they didn't. So he started like untying the shit to float it away because these people, like, it's a ferry, so it has to park. It has to let people off of the boat. It has to dock, and they weren't able to because there was another boat parked there, with the personal boat. So like, of course, like it turned into an argument between the black security guard and like you can tell it's heated between him and the other person because he's like, he's animated, like he's not like, standing there still, like he's animated. He's like, you know it looks like they're getting mad at each other, and then the bat signal comes along. He chucks his fucking hat in the air. The security guard chucks his hat like I watch the video if you don't know what I'm talking about. But he chucks that hat like it's gone. It's in the stratosphere. And he gets jumped by like 5 fucking people, and like not just men, by the way. There's definitely women like just jumping in and kicking them. Okay, you know, and the hero, the main character, jumps into the water from the ferry boat that's trying to dock, and swims over to help the security guard. And he like jumps in, and then the video like cuts for a second, and then we get another point of view where like the boat, the boat I guess already parked, right? And I guess they were trying to leave, but then these people are like, nah, be about that energy, and like pulled them off of their boat, pulled the white people off of their boat, and like started to jump them pretty much. So it, like the odds went from like 8 on one guy, so 8 white people and 1 security guard, to like 30 fucking black people on these 8 white people. And yeah, it was a brawl. Like some people were swinging. Yeah. People were swinging left and right. So yeah, it was like I personally found the fight funny. I don't want to make people think like I condone fighting. I'm not really big as far as like me myself being a fighter. I prefer to like talk things out and try to get an understanding before things get physical. I do understand that there are times where, you know, sometimes you gotta fight, but in this specific scenario, I found it funny. And it was more just like a karma's a bitch sort of thing. Like, I don't really have an opinion as far as like if it was too much or if it was too little. You know, like I don't want to get that deep personally because I didn't really go that deep when I first watched it. I just thought the shit was funny. Oh yeah, quick side note. There's a dude with a chair, and we'll talk more about Chairman in a little bit. But what were your thoughts like? Your first time seeing the video, were you like mortified? Were you just like, I know I showed it to you and you were laughing, but like when I first mentioned it to you, like what did you think happened? Or what was your like takeaway from it, I should say?
When you first mentioned it to me, I just figured it was another just group of people fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you showed me the video and I realized it was just a bunch of people fighting, I thought it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I didn't think anything of it. You know, even with the underlying facts that we're not aware of, I just thought it was just people fighting, and I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, I like. I think it was also the fact that before I saw the actual video, I saw all the memes. Like I'm a big TikTok scroller, so like TikTok is one of the biggest places for like when it comes to memes about current events. Like at the time of recording, Donald Trump just got arrested and his mugshot leaked. People are clowning that man. Like the memes are insane about him right now. But yeah, I heard about the Alabama like fight pretty much from TikTok, not from someone covering it, but from seeing people talk about like the occurrences that happened and then like you know, making fun of it and poking at it pretty much. So like that's how I found out about the brawl. And like again, I thought it was funny, and it's in another part of me, you know, it's kind of just like you get what you're given, or you're given what you get pretty much, or whatever, however the fuck the saying goes. You get what you get. So like, you know, they decided to jump some dude who was just doing his job, and they got fucking jumped too. And they got like, I don't know if you've seen pictures of them. I think one of them did like a follow-up TikTok about it. His face was bruised up, like he was beat. I'm pretty sure the lady that got bonked probably has a concussion of some sort, because that chair came down with the force of God. But yeah, it was like it was funny in my opinion. Again, I don't really condone fighting as like a, you know, method of solving issues, but I feel like in this scenario, it wasn't it was past the point of resolution, you know, like
Hmm.
the security guard was just doing his job and he was wrongfully attacked for it. So, you know, two negatives don't make a right, but I mean, hey, an eye for an eye, you know, and also like I don't want to dive too deep politically on it, but it was definitely a white on black issue, you know,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
you know through the years, like I mean even going back like through the years of us seeing you know white supremacy and it poking out its head even more prevalently and more apparent than before, at least when I was younger I didn't really see it as much, but now like as an adult, probably because I'm older now, that shit's everywhere. Like you see it everywhere every time, you know. It's why we have Karens and shit like that. But yeah, like it it definitely was a race issue. I you probably have more information on it because you said that they were white supremacists. So I didn't know that. So that kind of more solidifies it. Um, so yeah, that's interesting. So do you want to talk
Yeah,
more
it
about
just
that?
s- something about it, like it was funny and everything, but the black on white, like it was so, I guess, segregated. So seeing all black people pretty much fighting all white people, it kind of, it was funny, but it kind of brings you back
Mm-hmm.
to like it's this is still how it is. Like this is looks like a full on race war. Like we're still doing this shit.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
black
that's
versus white. So it was funny, but it was like, man, we're still not where we need to be.
yeah. Still not over this issue, you know. Like it's insane, and like that was kind of my thoughts on it too. And not to say that I've made my peace with it, but it's kind of just like I don't feel like there's anything because like you guys have, you know, the audience, you guys have seen how I look physically, you know, like for those who don't know, I'm not white. I'm black and Puerto Rican. You know, my folks are straight from the island, except for my mom. She was born and raised here. But either way, like um, you know, me looking the way I do, it's hard for me to kind of speak up about stuff. I like if I see something, I'm gonna say something, right? But like as far as having a platform to constantly speak on it, because I don't share those experiences as far as like um coming into racism, or rather like my experiences with like having racist ideologies put against me. And again, I've had people judge me because I look white, but that's prejudice, not necessarily racism. Because prejudice just means that you don't like something. Racism is systematic, you know. So like, yeah, I've had people prejudice against me, but there's nothing systematically that will be done against me just by looking at me, right? So I don't share that experience with my black peers. So seeing this, like, it was upsetting at first. I'm like, oh man, another black on white thing. You know, like it's another one, and we've had a lot of these issues, especially with the age of technology. You know, being able to record and all that shit. Like, um, you know, it's everywhere. And you see it a lot more now. So it's kind of like more like I'm numb to it, I guess. And I guess that's kind of
Mm.
why I see this more with a comedic light, because I'm numb to the underlying issues, sort of thing, you know.
Yeah, I guess it's true. We see it so often. Um, it's kind of not surprising in a way.
Yeah,
'Cause it would be. It's actually concerning, but we're so numb to it that we're like, oh, it's funny.
yeah, yeah. That's kind of my thoughts on it too. Like, again, I don't want to dive too politically on it. We can if you want, but personally, I don't want to because that's a whole can of worms, man. Just being numb to it, which actually is a pretty good segue into to our next thing. You know, being numb to it and talking about how we see it all the time. And I kind of mentioned it a little bit, like stuff is recorded a lot more now. So like, have you yourself ever watched like people fight, whether it's in person or like what are your biggest fights that you can remember like growing up watching? Because like I feel like there's a few fights that I can remember growing up that I saw. Um, but I mean, they were kind of just like they weren't on this level. They were just regular brawls. But like, what
Mm.
is your like overall experience, I guess, with fights? Like as far as like watching them and stuff.
Well, they're pretty entertaining to me, I'm not gonna lie. Like on Twitter, I follow an account that's all fights,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not gonna lie, that it consumes me. I'll scroll through all those videos and just watch all these fights.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, to be able to find it funny and not enjoy it, but be entertained by it, I have to kind of dehumanize them.
Mm.
I have to kind of watch it as if it's just entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I humanize them and imagine myself in that fight, or what kind of trauma they probably went through, or the injuries they received, then it starts to bother me and it's not as funny anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, as far as watching fights, I watch tons online. I've seen all the viral ones, like the girl with the shovel.
Sharkeisha?
Yeah, I've seen
No,
that
that's not
one.
Sharkeisha. The shovel one is
No, that's
different.
yeah, the shovel. I've seen Sharkeisha, then I've seen I forgot what the shovel one her name is.
I forgot what
But
her name is too, but I've watched that video too.
yeah,
It's funny. It's funny.
yeah, and they're all really funny, but you have to
Mm-hmm.
I have to watch it as a from a distance, as a bystander, not
Yeah. I mean, I
you
don't.
know. But as far as fights I've seen in person,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a few in middle school, and it was very over very petty stuff,
Mm.
like a girl stole another girl's hoodie or something like that, and then it would be like, you know what, I want to fight you after lunch, and then they would just pull each other's hair.
Mm.
Um, so I don't know if that would really they're fights, but it wasn't
It wasn't on this
punching,
level.
blood being drawn, or
Yeah.
any bruising really. It was just some hair being pulled out.
Gotcha.
So as far as that, when that's happening, it's like whatever. I've never witnessed a fight in real life, an actual like fist fight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I've just witnessed a few like altercations.
Have you ever been in one like in a fight or an altercation of that sort?
I've never been in one,
Hmm.
so I guess I can't really speak from a perspective of someone who's been in a fight either.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched them. I've seen a few go down, but I've never been involved or really
Mm.
even close. Not close. Yeah, pretty much like next to one or close to one. I've always been at a distance.
Mm-hmm. I get you. Yeah.
So
For
yeah, it's
for me, I've seen fights growing up, like as far as like the video ones. Like I've seen Sharkeisha, I've seen the Shovel Girl. I've probably seen all like the popular ones. I just don't remember all of them off the top of my head. And that kind of like goes into what you were talking about like you have to kind of dehumanize them. Um, I don't really think that's necessarily wrong or bad because if you think about it, like you don't know these people, like sure they're other human beings, but like you're not witnessing someone, I guess, get murdered. You're just witnessing someone get their ass beat. Um, and like as far as the popular ones go, like most of those are kind of like what you said in middle school, or like petty shit. It's like
mhm.
it's the way that I look at it, and this is why I kind of premise what I said. This is what I kind of premised before we started talking about this. That I don't really condone fighting. That I prefer to talk things out. I don't really. I see like punching and stuff like that, and violence of any sort as like a last resort, or like and as a spree of emotion sort of thing. Like, if someone, for example, like friendly like banter, right? Like, so I've seen this happen like just on viral videos of like, for example, like some dudes playing basketball, right? And some guys like talking trash, and then gets dunked on or some bullshit, and then he's butt hurt, and he's like, you know what, fuck you, and then like they start fighting, right? Like That's a petty ass fight. Um, and this again, that's not really the level that I really think that this was at. Unfortunately, I kind of think I've been in fights that were kind of on this level as far as like there being an underlying issue with it. And I feel like I've talked to you about this before, and I'm comfortable speaking about this online and stuff like that. Like I don't care. But um, so growing up, again, I mentioned a little bit earlier. Phenotypically, I look white. I look like a white kid. Blonde hair, green eyes, rice-colored skin. Like I'm white as shit. From the way I talk, from the way I carry myself, I look white. You would only know that I'm ethnic if you have seen people that look like me and know that they're ethnic, or if you know my family. Because, and you can probably attest to this, I look white, but the second you met my mom, you knew I wasn't, right?
Hmm.
So, like, that's just putting into perspective. But, um, when I was younger, for a summer, I went to like a middle school like summer camp sort of thing. And at this summer camp, um, it was I grew up in a mainly Hispanic area. For those that grew up in Chicago, I grew up by the avenues. If you know where that's at, you know what I'm talking about. It's all Mexicans, Puerto Ricans. It's all Hispanic. It's all Hispanic area. Um, and I grew up around that area, so there was a summer camp that was around for a summer, and my mom put me and my sister in it, and my sister didn't really have a problem. However, I had a little bit of an issue. So growing up, I'm gonna kind of premise all this. Growing up, my mom taught me not to fight. I just it's just she just decided like it's there's no point of fighting somebody. You're not gonna solve any issues that way. So I grew up knowing that it's not good to fight, no matter the reason. Like there's always a different solution, right? So when I was in this summer camp, um, around nothing but Hispanic people, they thought I was white. So they, and I say they because it wasn't just like a few people, like it was collectively like a group of like dudes pretty much that um like they just didn't like me. Mainly because I looked white. I didn't really I don't remember making friends there, so it wasn't like, you know, I fucked with somebody that shouldn't be fucked with or whatever. Like they just didn't like me because I looked white. And it was bad. Like I would get into fights almost daily, as far as like not I wouldn't say like throwing fists and shit like that, but like we were definitely pushing each other around. But there was a small point in time, and it was I want to say towards the end of the summer camp. I want to say like maybe a month is left of the summer camp. I remember I came home one day, and I got in a fight that day, and I had a black eye. I never really fought back because, again, I was taught not to fight as a kid, and my mom never really mentioned anything about defending myself. So, not that mom did anything wrong, but I'm just a dumbass as a kid. So I was like, "Oh, they're punching me. I'm not gonna punch back," So it was like that. Um, so yeah, like I got home, I remember, and I had a black eye, and my mom was freaking out. Of course, like your kid has a black eye, you're not gonna be cool about it, you know. So my mom was pissed and like kind of was talking to the counselors and stuff like that, and was just like, hey, like my son is in your care. Why does he have a black eye? And then my mom was told like, oh, some he got into a fight, whatever, whatever. Um, and then my mom kind of brushed it off because my mom wasn't like trying to pry into like, oh, whose fault it was. She was just kind of like trying to find an answer as to why I had a black eye. So she kind of brushed it off. I don't remember her reprimanding me if she did, whatever. But I remember, I want to say, I think the next day or the day after that, I got into another fight. Meaning I got jumped and I had another black eye. So I had two fucking black eyes as like, mind you, I'm like 7. I'm like 7 years old when this happens to me. So I'm getting my ass kicked. And my mom goes off and she also kind of reprimands me, but in a different way. She doesn't yell at me to like not do this, or you know, you shouldn't be fighting, etc. My mom yelled at me as like the next time they put their hands on you, she says, and I quote, "Wail on them fucking kids." So, my mom's kind of a G. But my mom's kind of a G. Maybe one day we'll bring her on to the podcast and you guys can meet her. But yeah, she's a G. So that's my experience with fighting. Other than that, I don't think I've ever really been in a fight. I mean, I've had little altercations, but not to a point where I'm like swinging. Also, a little thing about me of why I don't like to fight. I'm one of those people that cry when they fight. So even though like I'm swinging, I'm crying. I'm not happy about it. Like I cry when I fight, so I choose not to because it's kind of embarrassing. If I'm being honest, but it's also just not a good solution. Or at least it's not a immediate solution for me to fight. Unless I'm provoked, I don't really like to fight or try to start a fight. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my experience when it comes to fighting. And of course, like I've watched the fights. I've even watched like videos of people that I knew fighting, as far as like classmates and shit like that. I mean, it's always over petty shit. So I don't really think that there's many fights, at least that are like popular or recorded. Um,
Do any fights trigger you?
what do you mean?
Like, do you ever feel like sympathy, or do certain fights bother you
Oh
that you've
yeah,
seen online?
100% for sure.
Hmm.
It's not really fights. It's more just like I feel really bad for people that are in situations that they cannot control. So a good example of this, and we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, or rather I mentioned it, of like Karens and stuff. I absolutely despise people that think that their shit don't stink. I hate people that are cocky, even if it's justified. I do not like it. I think being cocky is like a tiny, tiny step away from just being an outright dick. Because it's annoying. Um, so the times I do feel sympathy, at least for altercations, is like when a worker is being grilled for something they can't control. Because I've been on that side of it. I've been on the side of the worker that can't do anything and just has to just take it. Um, as far as when it comes to like actual fights, like fist fights and stuff like that, I don't really remember any that like made me feel bad. It's mainly like stuff that has underlying issues to it. So, for example, like if we were to watch a movie, and I feel like we have watched movies, where say the highlight of the movie is like segregation, right? And we see like a young black guy get whooped on by like older white men, and they can't raise their hand to him because if they do, they will get punished harsher than the white men would, if the white men would even get punished. Stuff like that does trigger me because it's just like it's idiotic to think that people are fighting over something so simple, and idiotic to a point where it's just like, why are we willing to hurt somebody over a topic that like is there's no gain or loss from it, sort of thing. So stuff like that can trigger me, but as far as fights I've actually seen that aren't staged by like movies and stuff like that, not really. Like this didn't really affect me. At first I kind of like, the only person I felt bad for in the Alabama brawl was the security guard, because I myself am a security guard. And I don't know if this translates to all companies, but we are taught that we are not to fight unless it is like in self-defense in any way, and even when it's in self-defense, we are limited. We are taught that like if someone comes at you, and I remember this is ingrained in my head, to use a minimal amount of punches and kicks to
Hmm.
stop them. So we're supposed to be limited as far as how we can defend ourselves, even. And that's mainly due to the fact that the company doesn't want to be liable. There's that whole epsilon of stuff when it comes to liability and stuff like that, which I'm pretty sure you've learned about in school. Um,
Oh
as
yeah.
far as like being in law, so like there's that aspect of it, but that's the only person I really felt bad for because the guy was just doing his job. Like he didn't, at least from what we see, right? He didn't do anything to them. He wasn't, at least it didn't seem like he was rude about it. Like, sure, we watched the video when he like was moving their stuff out the way for them, but when it comes to security, we answer to somebody else and we answer to the client. So, assumably, he wasn't doing that on his own accord, right? We can only assume that. If he was, like, it still doesn't merit him getting jumped, but like I can understand, like, okay, that's kind of rude, right? But again, he's doing his job. You know, if he's told like, hey, if someone parks here and not supposed to be here, move they shit. Move they shit. What are you supposed to do? You know. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
as far as being triggered, I don't really think so. Only things that do trigger me though, segue, are again things that have underlying issues when it comes to like, you know, like police altercations when it comes to racist, like interactions and stuff like that. And I feel like it's not necessarily new in me, but I feel like with the upscale of recording when it comes to fights and stuff like that has kind of lit that fire in me, and I feel like it's kind of like that for people that weren't really active as far as like pursuing, you know, civil rights and stuff like that too. You know, um, so yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, when it comes to recording, like I feel like recording has its benefits, in which like again like it kind of lit that fire um in people to, you know, see these issues. And I've heard people talk about like, oh, I didn't realize this was such a prevalent issue until they started seeing it more. So I think
Yeah.
recording in that sense, it has his plus, it has his positives and negatives. And yeah, we wanted to talk a little bit about that. I've been ranting for a bit, so you take it away. What's your kind of takeaway about when it comes to like recording fights in general or altercations or anything like that? Just the whole age of recording technology.
I feel like for the most part it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it brings awareness to more issues
Mm-hmm.
and allows people to see. I know personally when I hear of an incident, I'm like, okay, but when I see the incident on tape, it hits different, and we need that recording and kind of exposure to it to really understand the gravity of that situation sometimes.
Mm.
So I'm all for recording, like pulling out your phone and recording to for awareness. I guess also for entertainment if it's harmless.
Who's gonna supply the Twitter account that you follow with fights if people stop
Yeah,
recording?
yeah. So I'm all for taking out your phone and recording because we need to see what happened. Because you know some people are also just skeptical and they're like, well, I don't believe that actually
Mm.
happened, or that shooting, or that man actually got killed
Mm-hmm.
unless they see it.
Yeah.
Which shouldn't matter. We shouldn't have to tape it for someone to believe it, but um,
Well,
I think it's good.
I
But
don't.
until
Sorry, I wanted
until
to interject a little bit. I don't think it's necessarily like the way you phrase it was like you have to see, like you shouldn't have to see it to believe it. I don't know. I think I want to try to I want to kind of push back on that because like for example, right? Say you hear about a police officer shooting a black individual, right? And that's the only thing you hear at first. There's no video of it that you've seen yet. You just hear police officer shoots a black person. Um, what is your initial thought on that without seeing anything?
I believe it.
Okay, well, not that you like it's a fact that it happened, but like I'm saying, like, do you believe that like there was something that happened, or do you think that it was like a racist cop sort of thing?
I feel like because of today's
Mm-hmm.
issues and how
Mm-hmm.
frequent it's been and
Mm-hmm.
unprovoked, I automatically think it was probably excessive force.
Okay, so I'm asking that because so in this scenario, right, in this hypothetical, and again it's a hypothetical, right? You hear that a police officer shoots a black individual, right? You automatically assume that oh, this was a race issue. The police officer's probably racist. Then video evidence comes out, and you see that the police officer shot the black individual because the black individual reached for not necessarily even reached. Let's put that the equation. They had a weapon and they were pointing it at the officer, and they were willing to kill the officer. Then your perspective changes, right? Because then it's just like, okay, the police officer was defending himself. So I don't really, I don't want to say that like recording it. I, Let me start over. Recording the evidence of some or the occurrences of an event that happens, I think is inherently good because video evidence cannot be denied. Sure, it can be edited, but the amount of work it would take to edit something like a fight, is I don't really think worth it, especially since most things that are recorded from a perspective of a bystander, except for like the whole police officer situation, because that is recorded usually through body cam footage. But that aside, like that's why I kind of wanted to push back on that because I don't like you just made an assumption right off the bat, right? But that assumption can be wrong, and I think that because that assumption can be wrong, that recording it isn't a bad thing. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I wanted to like kind of jump in on that because it was on my mind. I felt like I was gonna forget it. Do you have any thoughts on
I
that?
I agree with you. Recording isn't a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I really wasn't saying it was. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a bad thing when people are recording instead of interjecting or doing
Mm.
anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I think recording is bad. You see something bad happening, your first instinct is to whip out your phone instead of doing something about it.
Yeah.
Um, which you're not obligated to step in. But when, something's kind of serious is happening or the fight is getting actually like too much, like, oh, this could actually get really bad.
Mm.
And instead of anyone doing everything, it's just a crowd of phones.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's when I think record like it's a little out of hand. Like
Mm.
you're all grouping around the fight and have all your phones out while this person's like bleeding out. All you care about is getting a good angle,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
I get you. Yeah, I can agree with that actually. That's actually what I was gonna say as far as like my opinions on recording. So again, like I think recording is inherently good, but it can be bad, quote unquote, bad to record, um, if that is your first analytical, or if that is your first instinct, I should say. What I believe should happen is you should analyze a situation, or you should know when to interject. I can understand that people don't want to jump into a fight, especially if you have no stakes in it, because you don't like, worst case scenario, you jump into a fight and you get your ass beat too. Then you're on video getting your ass beat, you know. But like in certain scenarios, in certain situations that you can interfere to kind of stop it or to break it up, like that should happen. If you have the means to stop it, you have the means to stop it. And I say that kind of cautiously because this is not advice for people, by the way. Do not go out in the world and stop two drunks from having a fight with knives. Don't do that. Okay? But if you like, if you see like if you see a fight happen, right? And let's put another hypothetical out there. You see two guys fighting, right? And it's a fist fight, whatever, you record it. And then one guy's clearly knocked out. Right? He's gone. Okay, fight's over, right? Wrong. Let's say the other guy who's still standing decides to grab a brick, right? And is walking towards the person, or is walking towards the person on the ground. At that point, I think it is safe to say that if you are able to stop him from hitting him with the brick. The fight's already done. The other guy is incapacitated. He's already knocked out. There's no reason to take that step further. So I think in that sense, like, you should definitely try to stop it. I'm not saying like jump in front of the brick and take the bash to the head. I'm saying like, maybe, even calling the police, or um trying to talk the guy out of it. I'm not saying put yourself in harm's way, but if you can find a way to stop something from advancing to, like you said, another stage, you definitely should, instead of just continuing to record. I mean, granted, if you continue to record and got the guy, killing the other person with a brick, you can use that as evidence to prosecute them. But then the other guy is dead. You can possibly save that person's life. So, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
kind of in the same boat. Like, I think that recording is inherently good, but you should know when it is appropriate to stop recording or to interject and to prioritize something
it's always
different.
it's always a question of how much is too much recording
Mm,
when it comes to censoring.
yeah.
Because some
Yeah.
people are like, this shouldn't be shown. This is too graphic. This can trigger people. This is too bloody, or this is too this, and this needs to get censored. Then
Mm,
other people argue that this is necessary and everyone needs to see this regardless of if it triggers you, understand the severity of it.
yeah.
So it's like, do we censor or do we just show people the hard truth and what actually went down?
I mean, I think it's a hard thing to really do anything about, I should say. I can only speak from my own personal experiences. I forgot what happened a few years ago, but there was a really brutal um police brutality case that happened. I forgot which one it was, and it sucks to say which one, but I forgot. Um, but I remember people's like the video surfaced and people were watching it and people were very justly getting upset about it. You know, I was upset about what happened in the case. Yet I chose not to watch that video because I knew it was going to anger me. I knew it was going to make me, it was going to trigger me in some type of way, right? So I think it's hard to, because and I think social media is kind of a big part of this. If you should have a choice, right? Like you should have a choice to be like, oh, I want to see this, or oh, I don't. I don't really think that there's
See,
an.
but
Mhm.
some people are criticizing people like you when it comes to not wanting to watch it.
I mean,
They're saying like, why don't you want to watch it? You need to, know,
I,
this isn't something you can avoid. You need to watch it to kind of light a fire under your ass.
I mean, I get that. I understand that argument. However, um, I don't really think it's a good argument. Like I understand that, like, you want people to see something happen, or you want people to see something that you did because it made you feel a certain way. But people are failing to, not you, but they're failing to understand that not everyone is going to react the same way that they did. For example, like in that scenario I was talking about, right? I already had, like, like you said, a fire lit under my ass. Like, I was already upset about it. I understood the gravity of the situation. I understood that something needed to be done about it. You know, I didn't have to watch the video for that to happen. And that's not to say that that'll happen for everybody. This is a human factor. It's completely unpredictable. That's why I said it's not that strong of an argument, because you're assuming it's some sort of fallacy, probably. I don't remember, but you're assuming that people are going to have the same result or the same reaction that you did, or that a certain amount of people did. That's an assumption that is not safely made, because you don't know what that person's experiences is with stuff like this. You don't know if that person's racist. Someone might see, someone getting hate crimed and be like, yeah, they deserve it. Like, what benefit does that do then? That just makes them feel better. So that's why I don't really like that argument. I don't buy that argument. So that's why I say, like, if if you want to watch something and you want to view it, go for it. If you think it's going to benefit you, even if you want to do it for entertainment or just curiosity, go for it. But I don't think it's a, black and white, you have to watch this sort of thing. I don't believe in that. I think that it's definitely a gray scale, in that sense. So,
Yeah.
I don't really like that argument. Um, what do you feel about it?
I mean, I don't think it's a really strong argument.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I kind of feel and understand that stance for
Mm-hmm.
it. Um, because it's hard to explain. We're not always going to be able to just avert our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, eventually we have to face ugly truth and see what's happening and watch it, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, do
It's
you?
something you kind of
But
you can't avoid it in real life. Like, you need to this is what's happening. You need to see what's happening.
Yeah,
Like,
but do you like have to physically watch it? Though, is what I'm saying. Like, do you have
you
to?
don't have to,
That's
but
what
it
I'm saying.
provides.
Like, do you have to physically watch someone die on camera for you to understand the gravity of someone dying? That's what
You
I
don't
was
have
trying to
to.
argue.
You don't have to, but you shouldn't avoid it at all costs. I don't know
Mm.
how to describe it.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Like, you're talking about the issue.
You
Like,
can't run away from it.
yeah. But I feel like we're kind of talking about two different things though, because I'm talking about the physical video. I'm talking about physically watching it, not the impact it would make, but rather the actual content itself is what I'm talking about. I feel like what you're kind of digging at is the meaning behind the content and why it's impactful. I feel like you can still get the message of something without, or rather, these specific things. You can still get the message of someone, you know, getting racially profiled and then uh, beaten to death or losing their life or whatnot. You can understand that situation without physically watching it, at least for uh, the sane people, or right. So like, sure, if and again, I kind of said this, like, if someone had, like, I've seen people say that they understood their racial biases and debunked them by watching media that debunked that stuff, right? That is beneficial. That is benefit. It's just dependent on the person, you know like, I understand the gravity of a situation of someone being racially profiled and losing their life for something as stupid as race, right? However, I don't need to watch a video to understand that. However, somebody that grew up in a family that has racial ideologies and refuses to believe that there's racial injustice in the world, maybe, yeah, if they watch that video, it will bring that to light and they won't be able to ignore it. But I don't, like, I'm not saying that everyone is the same way. I'm actually saying the opposite. I'm saying that it's dependent on you as a person if something is going to impact you for the good, or if it's just going to be something that scars you. Like, there's plenty of videos out there of people actually dying on video. I don't want to watch that because I don't want to watch someone die. Not that I want to ignore the issue. I just don't want to watch someone die. You know. So that's why I say, like, the physical media itself is not nearly as important and is not a necessary direct pipeline to the information. The information is still there, and yeah, for some people, that piece of media will be the most impactful to them, but it is not a cutthroat, simple, this is the best way to understand this, or this is the only way that you're going to understand this scenario. And that's why I, like, kind of going back, that's the argument that some people make, that watching this specific thing is going to make you understand this, you know? And that's why like I don't want to watch. I don't want to watch someone die or even get beaten. I don't want to see that, but I still understand the situation. And again, it's a personal me thing. You know that I understand it, not the world understands it. Obviously, the world doesn't understand it if it still happens. You know, so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Get it.
it's a lot. You know, it's and we're kind of talking about it too, but like I feel like my idea on it and like watching it is because of the amount of videos that surfaced about like police brutality and police involvement and stuff like that. I mean, even like even the police inside of the Alabama Brawl thing, were like they had mixed like reception about it because in the video the police didn't do anything. The police were there, they were present. However, they didn't interfere until Chairman, which by the way, like I said, we're gonna mention him. Until Chairman went overboard.
Yeah.
So I'll explain it. So again in the video, there's a dude with a chair, and he's swinging that bitch, like he's hitting people with that chair. That's his sword, right? Police weren't there yet, or if they were there, they were just watching. From what I have heard from people that were there, the police were there. They were just weren't interfering. They did interfere when chair guy. There was a lady that was like a little bit away from him that was out for the count. White lady, like she wasn't knocked out, but like she was gone. Like she was done fighting. She got sat down. She was sitting down. Chair guy comes like I want to say a good like 10 feet towards her and then bonks her on the head like hard. It wasn't a soft little like tap. He like full swinged above his head down onto the top of her head. And again, she was gone. Like she probably wasn't getting back up. That's when the police got involved. And it kind of like I didn't really know how to feel about that, honestly. I was a little bit conflicted because it's just like I understand the police understood that like, hey, y'all signed up for this. Like this is what y'all get, sort of thing. But again, it's kind of their job to, you know, stop this from happening, sort of
Yeah.
thing. Um, so like I was a little bit conflicted on it, and it just I don't know. Police is a whole nother thing, and it kind of to like bring it full circle. Like police weren't really super involved in this fight, but like with the digital age and recording fights and altercations, like police are on the forefront of it. To a point where like anytime I hear that something happened, as far as like oh this was recorded or oh this person um got racially profiled or oh this interaction happened, immediately I'm like, okay, where's the video? And again, I don't really watch fights and stuff. I don't actively look for them, but I know like my automatic reaction is like, oh, where's the video of this police altercation? Because they're just on the forefronts of it. They're just everywhere on it. And this is why I said like, in recording is inherently good because there has been multiple cases of police officers doing racial injustice and having their body cam conveniently turned off. You know, so a
Yeah.
bystander recording those things is a good thing because then it records the situation, in its full, at least theoretically. You know, um, so yeah, like it's the police in the Alabama Brawl were just something different. How do you feel about it?
I mean, I understand in a way. I guess can't really say much because we weren't there.
Mm-hmm.
But police can only interfere so much when there's so many people.
Mm-hmm.
So if they didn't have enough cops or there wasn't backup, then I understand why they did not get involved. They have a duty to, step in when things get wild, but if it's something that they obviously can't handle with minimal people, minimal officers, then I understand why they didn't step in. But then when the chair came out and he hit that lady very hard, I understand why they were like, okay, hey, now like this could be possibly deadly
Bad.
force.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
So that's
that's
why
I
they
guess that's
stepped in at that
true.
point.
I didn't take it into
Yeah.
account because when they did come on the scene, there was only two officers, or
Yeah.
two or three officers that were seen. So yeah, I guess that's a fair point because like, you know, me being tin hat, like worst case scenario, a cop gets knocked out and then someone has cop equipment. That's bad. No matter if the fight was at least like quote unquote justified or not, like no one deserves to die in that situation because another life wasn't taken. At that point, you're going too far. Um, so yeah, I guess I didn't really take that into account. You know, like there might have not been enough police officers there. They probably wouldn't have been able to do much except for shout at them like, "Hey, stop it!" Which was just like, "What's that gonna do?" You know. Um, so yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, speaking of police though, as far as like the legality side, I kind of wanted to dive into um, if you know if anything has happened legally because of the brawl at all. Like, has there been any prosecutions on it? I know you said that like the people that were white supremacists. So like, what information do you have besides what was seen as far as like the aftermath or like if anyone's been prosecuted or anything?
As far as legally, I haven't seen much. Um, I know that about like 3 men were charged in connection with it.
Mm.
Um, I know that one later on he just turned himself in
Mm-hmm.
eventually. Um, so I think there's a total of 4 people who've been charged.
Who
Um,
were charged? Was it the people that were the like the white people or the people from the boat?
um, I have to look into it, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I was looking it up really quick. It looks like 4 were charged, and it seems like most of them were white.
Okay.
Um, and they're being charged with like third-degree assault,
Mm.
which is understandable because that's what they did.
Yeah.
Um, so that's what I've found
Mm-hmm.
so far. Um,
What's
apparently, when they began fighting, the white men, were
mm-hmm.
using the hard R towards the
Oh.
towards the security guard by the docking
Mm-hmm.
location.
Mm-hmm.
So it could possibly be classified as like a racial slash like hate crime.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're unless they track down every person who was there, probably just gonna get those guys that turned themselves in or who they
Mm-hmm.
able to get arrested. Um,
Mm-hmm.
unless they do a full investigation and ask around, did you see this person here? And do like a full blown who was at the scene,
Mm-hmm.
and they can even then they'd have to review video and be like, all right, who did what, so we know
Yeah.
who can
That's a
catch
lot
who's
of
gonna
work.
catch. Yeah,
That's
so
that'll be way too much work for them to do. So I
yeah,
guess
so they can
that's fair.
so they can see who's gonna catch an assault charge and who's not, or what degree or what
Mm-hmm.
So it's
So what's
they still want to
go ahead.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
They still want to show that they've taken some sort of initiative and punished at least some of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why they've at least punished the ones that have turned themselves in.
Yeah. I was gonna ask though, like, fuck, I lost my train of thought. Hold on a second. I was gonna ask, you know, like what you mentioned it. What's like third degree assault? Because I thought it was just like assault. Like he just assaulted somebody. I didn't know there was. I know there's degrees to murder, but I didn't know there was degrees to assault. Like what merits third degree assault? Like is it bad? Like is it the worst kind, or is it like what does that mean? I should say.
Okay. Well, first off, I looked back and it was
Okay.
all white people that were detained and arrested. But first degree is considered the worst.
First degree.
And yeah, first degree is the worst.
Okay.
Third degree is like least
Okay.
as far as severity. So third degree is like he calls minor injuries, maybe like a scratch or
Mm-hmm.
um, even as low as just threatening behavior.
Mm.
Minor injuries, threatening behavior, type of stuff that isn't too bad.
Mm-hmm.
Second degree is a little bit more serious, maybe some bigger injuries, maybe the greater bodily harm, and first degree is like the most serious where there's maybe use of a weapon, great
Mm.
bodily harm, things like that.
Okay.
So third degree is probably just from them throwing punches, giving each other some bruises, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's surprising. Honestly, they'd probably all catch third degree assault.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Do you
Probably
think
a
they
little bit more
would?
serious for the guy with the chair.
Yeah. Well, he didn't turn himself in, but if they did, if they did catch
Yeah,
Chairman, he was gonna get booked 100%.
yeah, and I don't think it was gonna be third degree.
It would. I don't think it would be like top of the top. Like it's definitely not. I don't think it's deadly
I think
weapon.
it'd be like
It's definitely
like a
second.
second,
hundred
yeah,
percent
second
is second
degree.
degree minimum. Because that
Yeah,
motherfucker was swinging. He was going at it with that chair.
yeah.
Um. Do you think like um do you think that it's merited as far as like them getting third degree, or do you think they should get like do you think they would have gotten more? I guess we don't really know like the injuries of a security guard. From what I can tell, he wasn't like badly hurt, but he did get jumped by like six people, you know. So like
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, do you think that there should be more? I personally think that it should be classified as a hate crime, and I don't really know if there's any extra uh penalties for that. But yeah, it's definitely a hate crime. I mean, using a racial slur and then you jump a dude for doing his job. That's a hate crime, you know?
Yeah, and definitely they said, racial slurs were used, and um, you could even hear them yelling it on video.
Mm. I didn't catch that. I was too busy looking at chair guy. But yeah, that's kind of crazy. I didn't know that. Not crazy in the sense like unbelievable, but crazy is like damn, like the story thickens. You mentioned like it could be qualified as a hate crime. Um, what like is there a second like is there a separate penalty for that, or is it like just a classification? Because I mean I feel like this is a hate crime for sure, using the racial slurs and all that. Like it's definitely a hate crime. So like is there a difference as far as like what the charges would be, or do you still think that it's just third degree alone?
I'm not sure if being classified as a hate crime necessarily worsens it or makes it more severe.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it just puts it in a different classification, like a different type of crime.
Okay.
Um, so it classifies it as more as like a kind of more serious, I guess, in a way, but it'll be considered a hate crime, which is I feel like it's viewed in a different light than just crime because it's discriminatory. So, um, yeah, I think it's just going to be a different classification if it was considered a hate crime.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I was just wondering, like, you're the law girl, so I had no idea. So you think it'll just be like third degree? That's it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think they're justified in what they did. I maybe I don't agree with them swearing up and down that it's not a hate crime, but overall, I understand. I agree with the whole third degree charge. I don't think they're gonna do an investigation of everyone
Mm-hmm.
unless, they get a lot of pressure from maybe the community or something like that, but I think they're just gonna prosecute and look into the main, I guess, instigators and the main players in the fight. Um, Probably just assault charges, probably nothing serious. Um, so overall, I think they're doing what I pretty much expected them to do.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the lawyer insider. You know what? We should probably like have a segment on here, just lawyer time or whatever, or something like that. It'd be pretty funny.
You should.
But I mean, we would just talk about stuff that involves law, I guess. Which I mean, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I don't really think there's much else to say about it. If I'm being honest, like it we talked about like the fight happened, like we thought it was funny, and like yeah, there's some underlying tones to it, and then but it's just sucks that we're kind of numb to that now, just from the exposure from it, um, or the exposure to that type of content. But yeah, I mean, I think that about wraps up everything I wanted to cover, um, on the Alabama brawl. Is there anything else that like is itching to come out of you, or you kind of made your peace with it?
I feel like I kind of said everything I wanted or needed to say. So yeah, that's a wrap for me.
All right. Well, I think we're good then. I think this is where we'll call our second episode. Hope you guys enjoy. And if you guys have any information or want to like, touch on anything that we talked about, feel free to comment. I'll respond to the comments. Josie will respond to the comments too. Like, we'll be there. So, definitely just, hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you guys think. We'll appreciate it. If you don't already, press that red subscribe button. We had a turbulent month, but we will be doing these weekly now. Especially since we're kind of just going to be doing the audio format. It's a lot easier for us to record these. Might not be as easy for the editing part because I gotta put some pictures and stuff for you guys to look at. But other than that, like it should be a more scheduled thing now. So sorry for the long awaited time. Appreciate you guys being here with us. We have a lot of fun doing these things. Anything you want to say to the people before we out?
Nope, that's it for me.
All right. Well, y'all have a good one. All right, we're done.